Hi, Dan here from Fisher Paykel Appliance Repairs again. This is my second video on how to clear a block drain pump on these Fisher Paykel Smart Drive washing machines. We're going to show you how to do it going in through the top here rather than taking the pump off the bottom, which is the quick, easy way we showed you in the last video. This is how we do it, because there's two advantages to this. One is that if there's anything in there like fluff and other bits and pieces like that, they're quite easy to get out. Get everything out, whereas if you take the pump off, you can only get what's directly in the pump there. There might be something else waiting to block the pump up later on. The other is that you can actually clear out the inner and outer bowl, clean any soap scum and that kind of thing off it. And also this way here, we can actually do when there's still water in the machine. We don't have to bail it all out. You can still do it by feel. I'm going to do it empty. This machine's got no water in it, but that's so that you can see what I'm actually showing you. Otherwise, we often do this with water still in it by feel to get partially cleared, pump the water out with the pump, and then clear out whatever else is needed. The other thing too is that these machines can be used on, well, this method can be used on the AquaSmart washing machines. So as I mentioned in the other video, there's a few different pumps on some of the different washing machines. But this is for the AquaSmart pump. It mounts in underneath. If we're going to the top, we can still clear it exactly the same. Through the bottom you can take the motor off, but it's actually water sealed in there, so you won't be able to get into where the pump is. So the method through the top here is the best way to do it with the AquaSmarts, and also some of the latest pumps too. You can get them cleared out, although often they won't quite. The latest pump, which I showed you at the end of the last video, the blockage will be in the pump itself, and you've got to take the rotor apart from underneath. Alright, so the first thing to do is unplug the power. We are unplugged, and lift the lid off. The lid just lifts off. As I mentioned in the last video, there's a couple of little slots there and grooves there, and to go back on, it just slots back on like that. So we get that lid out of the way. We need to take this agitator out. There's a nut down the middle. It could be a nut or it could be a bolt, depending on which model you've got, and that lifts straight off. Now we're going to get a screwdriver and just pop these two bungs off here. A flat blade and then a Phillips screw undoes the screws here and here. Now the top deck on these washing machines is held on to two screws there, and there are a couple little pegs that sit in the back. I was going to take a photo of that for you. You can actually get a screwdriver into those, prise them off and lift this top deck up. We don't want to do that because there's actual wiring harness all there, which is quite a, it takes a little bit to disconnect, and it's going to be a waste of time. So we're just actually going to lift this up and pivot it on those rear pins. Usually I'd slide the machine back a bit, so this could just lean back against the wall. Where I've got it set now for the video kind of prevents that. Right, so now we need to take this neck ring off. There are little clips on the side all the way around, and so we're just popping that off like that and working our way around. When this is cold, it can be hell on your fingers. Now I don't worry about disconnecting the spring here. Just lift this off and pop it over the side like that. Now if you don't have that spring, this little red clip can come off, and the spring will probably just be hanging on that suspension rod and just fall down the side. What I would usually do in that situation, you replace that clip, or if you haven't got a clip, you can just draw a small hole and just thread that spring through and bend it around on itself so that it holds on there. That's a bias spring. What it does, it biases the bowl, and instead of sitting directly center, it's going to move slightly over this way, which is away from the out of balance lever in this corner, which is actually snapped off. It should be about that long, so we need to fix that. And it's also used on the machines that don't actually have out of balance levers, so that's quite important. Now this here, you'll see there's some screws and stuff inside there. We don't need to touch anything else. This here just lifts straight out now. This can be a little difficult because it's sliding up on the shaft. Oh, this is easy. If you've had it soaking full of water, that will come out quite easy. But because it slides on the shaft, see all the grease and stuff I talked about cleaning up, with a reasonably tight fit between there and the shaft, it can be quite difficult to get off. Usually the process in that situation is, if you're nice and nimble, you step on that shaft, because otherwise you're just lifting and there's no weight, and you can lift it up. You might find it gets part way up and gets stuck. You can work it down, up, down, up, down. This one's nice and easy to come right off. But lime scale will so build up on that shaft will stop it. And so we've got that off there. You can pour water down the centre, or you don't want to put too many in the way of chemicals or cleaners in there, like brake cleaners or something like that, to try and loosen it up, because they will just go into the water. But a bit of water will soften up the soap scum amazingly. Right, so our pump is down in the right hand corner here. There's actually a cap sitting on top, which is an is designed to stop debris coming through and kind of catch this little trap. There's a single screw down the centre, and that is held in with, it's a Phillips screw, which is actually going to come undone. Otherwise, a 10mm socket. Sometimes you'll find it hasn't been taken off for a long time. You won't be able to undo it. Screw there, and then there's two pieces to this trap. There's this cap here. We have actually got something that was waiting to block it. That's why we want to come in this way. This pump was still draining fine, but we've got something actually on its way to block. And this here. So how this works, we've got something else. We've got a hair clip. So you find things which have been kind of stopped. So these two pieces sit together. Water comes in through this chamber here and in through that hole there. It then makes its way around in this area and down through this hole, which is down into the pump chamber, which we can't actually see right now. So now is when you have a feel around here. There is a O-ring as well that sits on there to provide a seal, and in the bottom here is our pump. And so what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to put this back on, pump a bit more water out so I can show you what it looks like. This is usually the point where you're going to very carefully reach in, don't want to stab your fingers, pull any bits of stone, hair clips, that kind of thing out. If you do think you've got everything out and you can turn the pump and you want to drain it, you have to put this back on. Without this, the pump will just churn water and not actually pump out, because this part here is where it spins around, gets directed over, and then down the drain hose. Right, so I'm just going to put this machine on drain. That water's out, so we can take this back off again. Now this is actually exactly the process we would take if this machine wasn't draining out. Bail out enough so the woolly was down here. In winter time, having your arm that deep in freezing cold water is pretty awful. Clear out what we can, put this back on, pump the water out the pump, then take it apart again to get out the rest. Just to show you the order here, so that comes off quite easy. Sometimes you've got to reach your finger in and pull that off, and then make sure there's that O-ring, big rubber seal that sits on top of there. So seal on that, that goes in, that goes in. Now you may not have exactly this design. This top case has been redesigned a few times. On some of the later machines it's kind of smaller and squarer, similar to this one here. You can see what we're looking at is just this case here with a couple of screws in it. So you might have to look around for where the screw is, but it's basically going to be that style to one way or other. Now we've got a few other things here we can clean out. The pump is this rotor down here. I'm going to take a photo and show you exactly what we're looking at. Got a lot of hair clips in this one, so just going to grab them out. They're not in the pump, but they could be later. Alright, so that pump's out. There's nothing blocking it. You can sometimes have a coin sitting right at this end here, but most of the time it won't get past that bit there. Most of the time it won't get past this trap. So now I'm going to put this back on, and you could just throw it back together and it would be done. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean out all this soap scum around here.